Very nice.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Why don't you get
Okay. Are you comfortable? You ready to start? I just want for the record to make sure we have the correct spelling of your name and the correct pronunciation of your name.
Just Weil,
Wow. And your first name?
Emma,
It's E-M-M-A.
EMMA, and Weil, that's W-E-I-L.
Okay. And when were you born and where were you born?
I was born in Vienna, October 31st, 1899.
Now, in your household in Vienna,
Pardon?
in your household where you grew up, did you have brothers and sisters and
Yeah,
parents?
I had 2 brothers and 1 sister, but they all passed away. I'm the only one left.
Were they older or younger?
My sister was older, the brothers were younger. One 3 years, one 5 years.
Okay. Now, you lived in a house with your parents? Were there any other relatives who lived with you?
No, just my father till he passed away in 1914. And then we lived in there till Hitler came. No, then I got married and we moved to another borough. And when Hitler came, my mother had to give up her apartment and we took a room near us.
Okay, let me back it up a little bit. So you grew up in Austria with your family. What did your father do? What kind of business was your father?
He was a manager in a ladies' garment store.
Did you notice growing up in school any kind of anti-Semitism?
Nothing. It was very nice. It was a nice, pleasant life to Vienna.
And your friends, some were Jewish, some were not Jewish?
Yeah,
No difference.
not different.
Then you were married what year?
When did I get married? 1930.
And you lived nearby or?
At first I lived in my mother's apartment and then we moved to another borough in 1934.
Close by though, right?
It was not so close by, but it was a different borough.
Now, did you have children before the war?
Before the war, no, she was born in 1935 and my son was born 1937.
Now, when were the first time, and you have 2 children, right?
Pardon?
You have 2 children, right?
Yeah.
Right, okay. What was the first time that you noticed anything going on, anti-Semitism, a change in the country?
When they took away the right to go to a park or to ride in the subway. And we didn't go to a market. For instance, my son, he loved cherries. And I was not allowed to, and I couldn't tell him the difference between a Jew and not Jew, because he was crying, I want cherries. So I told him, you can't have it. And one day I went, took a walk with him, and a woman came and she always was pushing into me. And I was so mad, I said, just why don't? Because we had to wear that yellow star. So I said, why don't you leave me alone? And then all of a sudden I felt she put an apple in my hand. Because she saw my son, he was so cute, he was blonde curls. And one woman said to him, and that you call the how do you call minderwertig?
What?
How do you call the
Say it again.
minderwertig?
I guess the underclass is
Something that you
Underclass.
call the things race, because he was so blonde and gray eyes. And she said to another woman, and then she gave me the apple, and then one day my husband, it was just before Christmas, because he was a war invalid, he had only one leg, so he took his crutches. And one evening, it was just before Christmas, he went the kids to look at the windows. And one man, he saw it and he asked him for the address. And then he sent up a nice truck for my son and the truck for the girl.
Let me go back. So what year was this approximately that you noticed things before you had to wear the star? Before?
Oh, that was maybe 1942. Because we left in 1944.
So it wasn't before that? You didn't notice anything earlier than 42?
Yeah, just that we couldn't go shopping. We had certain stores with certain hours and only certain things we could buy. Just a little bit milk, a few ounces of meat, and just a little vegetable, and that's all we got.
What business was your husband in?
Pardon?
What business was your husband in? What did your husband do?
He was a lawyer.
A lawyer.
And I had friends. He was the worst war invalid in Austria. He was blind and had no hands. So she was Catholic. So she brought me sometimes food for the children because we were very friendly with him.
So not everybody was...
No, the woman it was like a babysitter for my daughter. And her brother was in uniform already. And he came in uniform to our house. We had on the entrance door the statue. So he really risked his life. And he brought us some vegetables and fruit. But otherwise, if you go on the street, you just hear the Jews, and you can't go anymore, and it was just bad.
When do you remember when they gave you
The star?
Not an exact date, but do you remember what you felt and how they gave it to you?
I didn't go on the street. I was afraid. I only remember the first day when we had to wear the star. I looked out the window, the first person with the star. So it was a young boy, maybe, 14, 15 years old, with a star. And he walked very straight, head up high. And it was the first person I saw with it. But I didn't go on the street. I always sent my husband. Because they had a little respect because he had one leg, And he took the kids for a walk. And every morning there was on the windowsill was a little package for the kids.
Which came from those friends of yours?
No, I don't know, a stranger. At the moment, she only saw him walking by every morning. So there was such a wide windowsill, and every morning were two little packages on the windowsill for the kids.
Did it affect your husband's business? Was he having a hard time?
Sure, they took it away from him. And then we got when you buy the cigarettes, it's called the traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So the war invalids got it, and he got one. But they took it away because one morning we came there and it was all, I don't know if you understand, Saujut. Saujut, it's like a Schweinehund.
Right.
Was in this yellow paint all over this. So then they took it away. We had nothing.
Now, did you think at any point of leaving Austria? Did you think of...
Of course. He had cousins here already. And then we wrote letters to people with the same name.
Not relatives?
No, not relatives, strange people. So we got an affidavit from a woman called Weil, Florence Weil. But it was too late already. It was the war with America already, and we couldn't get out.
And what about to Palestine? Was that ever a consideration?
Palestine?
Yeah. Not something that your family thought about?
Because he had a lot of relatives here.
Right.
And my mother was here, my sister was, so everybody was
Oh, your mother
here.
was here?
Yes, she came in 1940.
38.
What?
38.
How did your family get here?
My brother-in-law had a brother-in-law, and he was a doctor. And he couldn't make it out in Vienna, so he said he was working here. So he said he goes back and try his luck here again. So in the meantime, Hitler came to Vienna, and he wrote his wife to keep his job. No, not to keep his job. He stays in America.
Right.
So because the daughter, she was born in America too. And then they sent right away affidavits to my brother-in-law. So they came to America in 1938.
So who came? Your sister
My sister with
husband?
her husband and one daughter.
and daughter?
They came in 1938. And then a few months later, they sent the affidavit for my mother. Because for one person it was easier than for a whole family.
And you still had two more brothers? Or one more brother?
No, they were dead already. So
When
it
did your
was
brothers die?
one had a tumor in his brain, and the other, it was an accident. He killed himself, but it was an accident.
So nothing to do with the war?
Nothing. No, that was long before Hitler.
So they were able to get your mother and your sister and her husband, but your family, you and your family were still
My
there.
family, because for one person, and because my brother-in-law, they were American citizens.
Right.
So it was much easier for them to come than for us.
Right.
So that's why we didn't come out. We had affidavits already, but in the meantime the war was already with America, so it was too late.
So what happened then? What's the next thing that you remember?
So we had to move. We had a beautiful apartment, and we had to move this one borough like a ghetto.
Which ghetto was that?
In the second Leopoldstadt, it was a second borough where they put most of the Jews together.
And how many people would you guess were there?
I don't know, but quite a lot, because it was this one borough where they put all the Jews together, because not everybody got out.
And can you describe what life was like then in the ghetto?
Oh, it was not nice. We had to put in one apartment with 3 sisters. We had 1.5 rooms. They fixed up for us.
What do you mean 3 sisters? Who?
They owned the apartment, and they put families together.
But it was just you and your husband and your
And
children?
the 2 children. And the apartment we went to, there were 3 sisters. And they all came later to Theresienstadt too. So we stayed there, and there was nothing to do.
What kind of food was provided for you there?
Food? Just we got a little bit milk, a little bit meat, and some vegetable. Fruit, I don't know. Fruit I only got what my friends brought me.
They still brought you there to the ghetto?
And no, one I get, because she was Catholic, so I went there to the,
Oh, so you could leave when you were living in the ghetto?
yeah, we could leave, but just not only in the borough. And she so happened that she was live not far away.
Right. What was your day like there? Did they have you getting up early in the morning, or what was the
So
day
I
like?
went, you have to stay in line to go shopping. And then I was cooking, and I don't know, then the day went by. You have to stay for everything, you have to stay in line.
And what about your husband? What was he doing?
Nothing. Could take a walk on the streets with the children.
Did the children understand, or did you explain to them what was going on?
No, I don't know. Did you understand? I don't think
I'll get
so.
to her later. But did you try to explain to them? Did they did you try to explain
No,
to them
the
why
only
their life?
way we could go was the cemetery. But they didn't want we have a little bit fresh air. That's why we couldn't use the trolley car anymore. So we only had to to walk around on the street.
So how long did you live like that, in that ghetto?
Oh, at least 2 years. And then, oh, that was so funny. They came to the Nazi SS. He came to apartment to look whom they can put on the list to send to the gas chambers. So she had 2 long braids,
Your daughter?
and the boy with his blonde curls. And they were standing there holding hands, and he was standing there looking from one to the other. He couldn't believe that's Jewish children. But otherwise there was nothing to do. Then one at night we had to stand in the window because everything did at night. To send people away, everything went at night.
So people would be disappearing at night? Is that what would happen?
So to us we came, remember it was 2 o'clock in the morning. So we had to get dressed and had to leave.
Did you have any idea where they were taking you? What did you know? I think what people are curious about is, what did you know? What kind of information did you have inside the
In
ghetto?
Vienna, nothing. In Theresienstadt, we learned about the death camp in Auschwitz.
But when you were in the ghetto, did you have any idea what was going on?
No, nothing.
So when they came to
Nothing.
take you, you didn't know where you were going.
Nothing.
What did they tell you?
But we had an idea because the war invalids they sent to Theresienstadt because it was a so-called good camp. So that we know that we knew that the war invalids they sent to Theresienstadt. But from Theresienstadt, then of course they were sending them to Auschwitz.
Right. So they came at 2 o'clock in the morning, and what did they say to you?
Nothing. We knew already when they came we had to get dressed and leave. Just they say we can take whatever goes in the suitcase, and then they took away everything we had. So we had nothing left.
And where did they take you?
Where?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was a station. I don't remember anymore. The only thing we saw at first when we got off the train, it was a SS man with a whip and dogs. That was the first impression I had. And then they took us to a,
So it was a lot of you. They took a lot of you together,
the whole train.
and you had no idea where you were going.
No. Then we know, they told us we're going to Theresienstadt. But then they brought us to the armory where we used to stay
Mm-hmm.
with, of course, a lot of people from Czechoslovakia and Vienna. And then we had to lie on the floor, and my son, he was so sick. He had pneumonia, and he had like 104 temperature. The doctor came every morning just to look if he's still alive. He had no medication.
This was in the armory at Theresienstadt.
And lying on the floor on a mattress. And I had no water. His lips was like this, swollen. I couldn't give him water because everything was polluted. But that was the beginning.
So what happened? Did he survive that?
Yeah, he survived, thanks God. And then she got sick. She had the strangest sickness. Nobody knows, no doctor. For 2 weeks, she had temperature for 2 hours. It came 6 o'clock at night, and she was drooping, and she was sitting down. I said, oh, it must be 6 o'clock. It was 6 o'clock. It went on for 2 hours. It was 8 o'clock, and everything went. This was going on for 2 weeks. Till today, nobody knows what it was, how it brought on, nothing.
How long were you in the armory
It was a long time, 2 years maybe. The last year we went the barracks.
What was your day like there? What kind of food did they give you? What did you do during the day?
I was the best scrub woman there was. Whenever they need some job done good, they call me the Yidin. So I had to go. I was the best scrub woman. And I always, they sent me where I have, because they were so hungry, the kids, they were crying for hunger, just a little bit of bread. I didn't have it. Where should I take extra bread? So then they said, if somebody goes to the typhoid hospital to scrub the floors, get one lunch more. So I said, the heck with it, I go. So I went to the typhoid hospital to scrub the floors. And there was one little girl, I never forget it in my life. She had a high temperature and she was lying with the upper body, she was lying on the bed. With the legs, she was on the floor like this. She couldn't get in and we were not allowed to touch the patients. And always she was crying, Maminka, I don't want to die. A little girl, but she died. And that was my worst experience, just for a few rotten potatoes, because they were crying so much from hunger.
Do you remember the guards that were there that were taking care
Yeah,
of you?
I remember one guard, but I don't remember. I remember how he looked. He was very tall and skinny, but I forgot his name. Because once there was we were not allowed to go out. I don't know what it was, but as a punishment. The kids were not allowed to go out. Of course, we had to go because we were working. So I said that the kids, they couldn't stay in anymore. I take them out. And I took them out and the guard came. I was scared to death. But nothing happened. He asked me only, what are you doing here? I said, nothing, I'm going to work. Don't take the children. So I sent them home. I was afraid maybe now we're going to Auschwitz. But he was good enough, he didn't say anything. But that really scared me.
So was it one big room that everybody slept together in the armory?
I still remember every single face, every single, where they were living, where they were lying. I remember the expression, I remember everything. And there were a lot of people. I remember exactly where they were lying.
And what kind of information were you getting there about the war? How did you know what was going on in Auschwitz?
We only knew that they get like pajamas. And we only knew that they were sent to the gas chambers.
And how did you get that information?
I don't remember. I have no idea. Maybe I don't remember. But that is and then I remember, but there were the kids, the little kids, made a big line, and they had, that I remember, but I don't remember why. They had little tin boxes with ashes, and they said that were from burnt people, and they had to throw it in the river. And for that they each got a can of sardines. You don't remember? You see, she doesn't remember anything. But it's the only thing I don't remember where it was. I only remember to see the tin box and the line with children, to throw it in the river.
Is there anything else that you remember about that time that you want to talk about? I mean, or any other little moments? I mean, all of these little stories really are what provides a background for everybody to understand. But is there anything else that comes to your mind that you want to?
Oh yeah, one this I never forget in my life. There was a death camp. The people came, I don't know from where, came to another camp. They were, I forgot how many days they were walking.
Came to the armory. To Theresienstadt.
To Theresienstadt.
Right.
To Theresienstadt. I don't know where they went. And there was one, he wore a dead friend over his shoulders. And there was one Nazi was standing there like a statue. I think he couldn't believe anymore what they did to the people. I never forget it in my life.
What did he say? Do you remember? Did he say anything?
Nothing. He was just standing and staring. Because the people, they were just skin and bone. And the one with the dead man over his shoulders, you couldn't forget. It was just, I can't describe it.
Did you have enough food there to survive, or was it so small for you
No,
too?
it was just a few rotten potatoes, black coffee, a water soup. That's why I went to the typhus hospital to get another lunch.
So as people came from other camps and they would tell you or tell people what had happened, is that?
No, didn't came. They came from Holland. Yeah, and the things, the
But these
people
people who
from
came-
Czechoslovakia, because they were in their own country, so they got parcels. And when she was so sick, the family who was lying next to me gave her for 2 weeks, I think, every day a big piece of bread with lard, because she looked so terrible. And because we all had the lice, so her hair was like nothing, and a long thin neck, and she was so skinny. So she felt so sorry for her that she gave her every day a big piece of bread with lard. She should get a little better.
And what was your husband doing? What was his
He was
job?
always sick. He was in the hospital. And when he was not sick, he didn't do anything. There were other people there. And,
So they
we
didn't have
were
him
just-
working.
no, not the. I mean, that's one thing they had a little respect for war invalids, because they gave their body for the country. And that was the only thing they really had a little respect. That's why we stayed. We were in the things already, in the transport for Auschwitz.
Wait, I'm sorry, when was this?
That was from Theresienstadt.
Okay, so you were there for, I'm just trying to make sure we have the chronology. You were there for about 2 years, is that right?
3 years, exactly
years.
3 years.
And this is what? Do you remember this was what year then when you left Theresienstadt?
1945. In 1946 we came here. We were at Theresienstadt from 1942 till 1945.
Now what was this that you just said about Auschwitz? They were taking you to Auschwitz?
No, we came out because we were on the list already, but then they found out that my husband was a war invalid, so they took it off the list from Auschwitz. And then it was,
Wait, so they had you on the list to go and then they changed their
they
minds?
changed their mind.
So had they told you you were going and then they came and...
Yeah, we were ready to go already. And then they came and say, you can stay. But then at the end, they had to go again for the SS men.
I'm sorry, they took away. I didn't understand what you just said.
It was almost the end already, but
Uh-huh.
we didn't know it. So they told the men already they have to go for the SS men. And to some he said, it's all right, you can go. And to some he said, go to the typewriter. And to my husband they said, go to the typewriter. And then after a while we learned that they said to go to the typewriter. They could stay, but the one he said, it's all right, you can go, they were sent to Auschwitz the last few weeks. So they was luckily they said to my husband, go to the typewriter. So that meant he could stay.
And you think that was because he was a veteran of the war? Unbelievable. So when the war was over, where were you and how did you learn about this when the war ended?
First of all, they took the Nazis as prisoners. And
Did
we
they all of a sudden come to Theresienstadt, or how do you remember how?
I don't even remember how. I only remember that the Nazis, they cut off their hair, just they had a little stripe of hair left on their head to know that they were Nazis.
Right.
So then we came to Innere camp in Germany.
Wait, when
For
how did you
1 year.
get there?
Pardon?
At the end of the war, you were brought there?
Yeah, we bought there in the Innere camp. And from there you could decide either you want to go back to your country or you want to go.
Should have been 2020. All right, well, I'll look at this afterwards. Let's go back. I understand there was a story about the guards that you wanted to tell.
There was two guards always in the little house to watch that nobody could escape. So I was sent to scrub the floor. And there were two elderly SS men. And one said, "Do you really think we are in of our own free will? We are forced to be in." They put their pistol on our chest just to go in the SS. I don't know, my son is in the war for 2 years. I haven't heard from him. I don't even know anymore if he's alive. So you can see that not everybody was a Nazi.
But how did you respond to that? Because on the other hand, these
Nothing,
people...
you can't say anything. Or there was a from Holland. And every morning he had to take care of the stove. It was in winter to bring coal up there. And every morning they called him just when the news came over the radio. They called him in. He should listen to it. That's why we heard about things too. And then when Roosevelt died, they threw down leaflets. Don't despair, it won't take very long anymore. So we knew a little bit something that won't last any longer. And he brought then the news from the radio. He told us.
No, I didn't realize, I missed asking you this before, that you also were working before the war. What is it that you were doing?
Oh, I was a bookkeeper in a bank.
Now, did you lose your job as the war broke out as well?
No, I lost it before already because there came a law that husband and wife can't work together. So it was in 1934 that I had to go to stop working.
All right, let's go back to then the end of the war, that you were in Theresienstadt, and they were going to move you again, or how did...
No, we went to a UNRWA camp in Germany, in Deggendorf, for 1 year. And from there we came to America.
Now, tell me about that in Germany. What was that like?
Oh, that was our best year. It was peaceful. We got something. We ate so much that the doctor said we have to stop eating because it's very unhealthy. We put on so much weight.
How did you hear that the war was coming to an end? How did you hear that you were being taken to someplace better? Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, because first of all we saw the Nazis were taken prisoners. And then I don't remember exactly how it was.
Did any Allied soldiers come to...
Oh yeah, the Russian came. It was such a typhus epidemic in the things, and for 3 weeks they worked night and day till not one typhus was left anymore. And they brought us food. They brought every day. We had barley. We ate it with sugar, we ate it with mustard, we ate for 3 weeks just barley. I can't eat barley till this day. Yeah, the Russian came. They were terrific. And there were 2 women doctors in uniform. And one came with his son. He was 15 years old, exactly the uniform like his father. He was with him during the whole war. Yeah, the Russian came and then they told us that the war is over.
I can't imagine how that must have...
We felt sorry for the Nazis. We gave them bread.
You're kidding.
I swear to God, we felt sorry for them.
Because they'd been so nice to you?
That's stupid, I don't know. That just shows you that the Jews can't hate.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that I remember. We gave them bread. Because when we saw the shaved heads and they had a certain kind of the dress code or something. So we felt sorry for them. Yeah, there was, I was scrubbing the floor, there was a young man, and he said, you know, when the war is over, you give me your star. So he was afraid that he can go away with something to believe that he's a Jew. So he wanted our star. But I never saw him again. He was a young man.
So most of the people close to you there were treating you fairly well, or was that just some of them?
No, there were some. I don't know. We didn't have contact with anybody, just the Jews where they give us work. And
But the guards, because you're saying some of them were kind to you.
oh, the guards, we didn't have much to do with the guards. Because every had a person who took care of it, and they talked to the guards. But we were not allowed. Only when they want somebody, they called, because we had no name, we were just a number. And he said always, send me the Jew. We were not even a person anymore, we were a number and a Jew, that's all.
So what made you feel sorry
Very
for them?
very bad to just have so much. I stopped speaking German because I was so full of hate.
And yet you turned around and were
And
kind
then,
to them.
But the 1 year in the UNRWA camp, that was our best year. There was peace and we got to eat and it was beautiful there till we came here to America.
And then you brought the whole family and you came here. Did you lose any other family in the war? Did you have
Oh yeah, from my mother's side, 2 committed suicide because she didn't want to go away. And 1 married couple, they took with them some kind of poison because he was in the drugstore. We said in case it gets worse, they commit suicide, he and his wife. And 1 sister from my mother with her husband, they committed suicide in England, in the cemetery.
in England? They made their way to England and then
And they killed themselves. Because when he was in Vienna, he was, I don't know, not too long, he was in a prison. And when they were in England, they were afraid it goes around as all the men were sent to the Isle of Man. And there was such a big love, they were afraid that he went sent away. So rather than to be for him to send away, they killed themselves. So this was 1 couple, and 1 couple took poison, and 1 sister killed herself, and the other one from that was my side of the family, and for my husband, they were in Theresienstadt and then they came to Auschwitz. So it's nobody left, and the only one
who went from Theresienstadt to Auschwitz?
from my husband's family.
So they were with you for a while?
Yeah. Only 1 nephew, I think he came to Israel. That's all. But it was nobody left.
His brother.
Eh, what?
The ones in South America.
Oh, they came to the long time before Hitler,
So-
right away.
But this
A
part of your
cousin.
family was with you in Theresienstadt and they were taken away to
Yeah,
Auschwitz?
yeah.
Ah.
This was a uncle from my husband with his wife. And the cousin, they came to Auschwitz, they were living in Czechoslovakia. So they came to Auschwitz. And the uncle with his wife, he came to Auschwitz, it was all from my husband's side. And from my side, there was one sister of my mother. And we assumed that they were sent because sometimes she sent us from the Red Cross little packages, and all of a sudden they stopped. And when we were here already, I asked the Red Cross, and they said they were sent away to Auschwitz.
But your immediate family, that was all okay.
Pardon?
Your immediate family, your sisters and brother were all okay.
Yeah, they came here
Everybody
in
was okay.
38.
So everybody was okay.
My sister, my siblings, and my mother.
Right.
She came in 38, my sister was 38 too.
Is there anything that I'm forgetting to ask you? Is there anything else that you remember that you would like to talk about? Is there anything that I have skipped over that you can think of? Have I covered it?
Do you know about it?
You want to pause it for a second? Though? I just want to look through the notes and make on. I'm sorry. Say that again. Start again.
In Theresienstadt, in our where we stayed, there was in one corner he put all the people there, crazy people there. There was one woman. She thought she was Jesus. She had such a long beard. I still remember. And there he put all. Of course, they went. Yeah, and then was one that was so cute, so little children. They got all a new outfit, and everything has on its back a little paddy. And they said that they looked for a chaperone. The kids they sent to Switzerland, and they all sent the kids to Auschwitz. Little kids that tiny. They were so cute, I still see them.
What did you do with schooling for your kids while you were
Nothing.
there?
She would think the war was over, she couldn't read and write. So here with, she was 10 years old, she had to start with in the first grade because she couldn't read and write. At first in Vienna, we had a private teacher.
You went back to Vienna then
No,
afterwards?
no, when Hitler was
Oh, I'm saying before, right.
before. And then they didn't want the Jewish children don't need the education.
Right.
So then my husband taught them a little bit. But who had the
Time.
patience, they had to teach children. So they grew up with nothing.
What about the clothing? How did what kind of clothing were you wearing in the
Oh, the one, first of all, we took the best thing we had, and they took it away. They stole it from us. And everybody who went to Auschwitz gave us but they couldn't take it. They gave it to me.
They all knew what was happening when they were taken there. They knew what was going on there, right?
But
The people who were going to Auschwitz, they knew what was going on there, right? They knew what that meant.
because that I still have it in my ears when you, at night, they did everything at night. And you could hear when the train was leaving, you could hear it whistle. So we knew the train is leaving now for Auschwitz. I never forget it in my life.
So every day,
And you can hear the whistle.
and every day you would wonder if it would be you next, right? How are your kids doing during this time?
My son, he was crazy. When we came over here, a cousin from my husband, he said, "Why don't you go to a psychiatrist? The boy is crazy." Oh, she was all right. But with him, it was, first of all, everything was strange. The elevators, and he was riding, because when we came, I think it was, I forgot, Benny Brice gave us in a hotel a room. So all day long he was riding the elevator. And he was completely crazy. He was, when I saw the colored people, I was afraid he never saw colored people. I was afraid he makes some remarks about the people. I had a hard time with him. But she was all right. But the beginning was very hard. First of all, It's very hard if you don't speak the language.
Right. Have you been back to Austria? Have you been back to Vienna?
4 times.
And has
Because nothing. Once I was sitting and there came a Jew with a pious, you know. People didn't even look. Nothing. I didn't feel nothing. They were very polite. And I don't know. I only went because the woman who took care of her, I loved her dearly. So I only went to see, and the friend who gave us the food.
right.
So I only went there to see them. But otherwise, I wouldn't have gone back, but just to see them.
Okay.
But I didn't feel no anti-Semitism, nothing.
No problem with going back emotionally. It didn't.
Yeah, of course it made you mad, and I didn't see everything. I didn't go to the things where we used to live. But I'm not that sentimental anymore.
Okay. Let me pause it for 1 minute. I just want to make sure that. One thing I forgot to ask you back before you were in Theresienstadt in the first ghetto, you wrote that that had been administered by Jews. They had people taking care of the camps, right? Can you talk about that a little bit? You know, how it was governed, how it was worked?
Where, in Theresienstadt?
No, before, in the ghetto.
In the ghetto, I don't even know, because we were not allowed to go any place.
But you were governed by, it was Jewish people who
Only
governed?
Jewish. Everything was Jewish. We had, there was just one part that was a ghetto, and you couldn't get out of the ghetto because the Tralikas, everything was not allowed.
And then when you were in Theresienstadt, what happened on the I mean, how did you continue to practice your religion? Did they allow you to...
It was all they made it in their room.
I thought you were in the armory, you were in one big room, right?
Yeah, but the women and the men were separate.
Right.
I wasn't together with I was together with the children, but I was not together. He was in a different
Oh, your husband was in a
armory.
different armory. And your son was with you, not with your husband.
Yeah. No, he was, because he was only 4 years old when we came.
Right.
No, he was with me. The children were with me.
But what happened whether it was Shabbos or if it was Rosh Hashanah or anything? Were you allowed to...
Yeah, the men. One took, he had a talus, and they had the prayer books, and they made it in their room, because everything was Jewish there. So that was allowed,
and
just
the
not
guards,
public. Everything in their room.
They didn't prevent, the guards didn't prevent them or didn't come in and stop them? Nothing?
No.
Okay.
Only once they made the concert for us. She was from Vienna, a pianist.
They had a concert for you? How often did you get to see your husband if he was in a different
Oh, I
armory?
could go out. But he was always sick. But we could go in the ghetto. I could go out.
Okay. I think we've covered it. You did a great job.
Another hour or so, because I'm sure things will keep popping up. Yeah.
I just want to, are you ready? All right. I just want to make sure that we have also the correct spelling and pronunciation of
Okay.
your name.
Hannah, H-A-N-N-A-H, Shear, S-H-E-A-R.
Okay. Now, you were how old when you first were taken from your home in Vienna?
I was 6, and I really don't remember anything about it. I mean, I have vague memories of the place that we lived in.
Before
the
the war.
room, yeah. And I have one memory, and that was I had very long braids, and they just took them and cut the braids just, straight across. And I remember that.
When was this and where was this?
When we were taken to the concentration camp. I don't remember whether it was at the camp or before my mother I'm sure knows, but I don't remember exactly, when that happened.
Do you remember the first ghetto that you lived in when you were taken?
You mean in Vienna?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't have any memory of that.
And anything else in Theresienstadt
Theresienstadt, yeah.
that comes to mind, whether it's the beds or the other children?
I remember bunk beds. I'm not sure whether that was Theresienstadt or Deggendorf.
No, that was Theresienstadt.
That was Theresienstadt.
When they built the barracks.
Yeah. And I remember that. There must have been 3 or 4 beds on top of each other. 3.
And it was
There were
one
3
big
tiers.
room?
No, there were beds, individual beds, but there were 3 tiers. There was 3 high.
But your mother said in the armory you were in one big room.
That I don't remember. I don't remember the armory. I do remember the bunk beds, the barracks, which was after the armory. So I think we were in the barracks for a year, and I remember that. And I remember we had a stove there, I think, because I was burnt. There was water on top of a stove, and it fell on me, and my knee was burnt. And
do you remember being afraid, or do you remember wondering what was going on, anything?
No.
Do you remember when the war ended?
I remember a farm, something. I think that was Theresienstadt too. I don't know if it was during the war or after the war. They let us go. It was during the war, and for some reason, they let us go to a farm and pick strawberries or something. And I don't know why.
Because
But
he was
the man who owned the farm, he ran the farm.
But he worked there.
A Jew.
Now I just
A
want to clarify
Jew,
you.
right.
Oh, a Jew worked there.
A Jew worked there, and I guess he used to let us come.
No, I'm
Because
thinking
he
I
was
confused a
from
little bit. You were in the armory for a year and then in the barracks.
2
for
years.
2 years.
We
in
were in the armory
barracks.
for 2 years, and then they moved us into a barracks. But I have no recollection.
I didn't even ask you about that. I didn't realize it was 2 separate.
It's 2 separate. Yes, they moved us from the armory into this barracks, and that's where they had the bunk beds. And I remember that. I have some memory of playing with other children, and I remember them being taken away. I remember one friend who was sent to Auschwitz with her mother and father, and
Did you understand what that meant at the time?
not
Did
really. No.
Just that they
No,
were.
because we really weren't given that much. And then, then there's the Theresienstadt that they talk about with the concerts and the paintings, and there's a lot has come out because it was a camp that they brought visitors to. They brought the what do you call it? Not native, the inspectors from the Red Cross.
Right.
And but we never saw any of that. And I don't remember any of that.
Anything
I
else?
remember the one other thing I remember is the transport from Theresienstadt to Deggendorf. We were transported by truck, and the trucks, a couple of the trucks went off the road, and people were killed going from the concentration camp to.
I can't believe that.
Yeah. And I remember that, and fairly clearly too. And I remember at the end of the war, I remember or whenever it was, I remember the Jews coming from somewhere to Theresienstadt in their black and white striped outfits, the emaciated skeletal people walking from somewhere to Theresienstadt. And I'm pretty sure it was Theresienstadt. Yeah. And that was at the end of the war, I think, when they had been released and they were walking somewhere. I don't know where they were going. But I think they just opened the camps and they just walked.
Do you remember this mystery illness that your mother
No,
describes?
no, I don't remember that at all. I remember a little bit about Deggendorf. That was the UNRWA camp. I remember riding in jeeps with American soldiers, and I have vague memories of the trip over from. We came over by boat, so I remember that. Everybody was sick, except me. I never got sick. And I remember that a little bit. But other than that, and I went back to Vienna in about 1960, I went back. And I really didn't remember anything. But then I had left there when I was 6.
Right.
So, yeah.
Great.
But that's about it.
That's good.
That's about all
Any
I-
detail helps.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great.